What is going on, you guys? Mr. Lepre here, back again with another video, and in today's Spider-Man Explained video, we are going to be going over how Flash Thompson actually became Captain Spider in What If issue 7. Now, this is a number of parallelers in, the Marvel timelines. We've seen Flash actually become Spider-Man like multiple times in different What If comic books, but in this universe it gets very interesting. Peter is sitting at the lab, and then he actually gets knocked aside by Flash, and he actually makes fun of him, and he talks about how he actually wants to get these chicks, and then he moves him aside, and then the spider would eventually hit the radioactive machine, and it would go onto Flash's hand, and he would get bit. And actually what would happen here is Peter would see what would happen, and he would inspect the spider, and he actually thought that maybe he would do a paper on it, and he would take it home. So in this dimension, things get very crazy really fast, where Flash is taking these two girls out, and what happens is a car is on the road, and it's moving really fast, and Flash doesn't actually see it. So what happens is the car almost hits him, but Flash manages to move the car out of the way very fast and picks it up, throwing it on the ground, and the guy in the car is just very shocked at what happened, and even Flashes, like he can't even believe it. He's like, holy, somehow I felt like I was strong enough to do that, and he did it anyways, and he almost actually beats the guy up, and he takes him out of the car, but the guy would end up running away, and things get very, very interesting again very quick, because he's asking the question, like, maybe it was the spider bite that's giving me like this power, like why am I very strong? And he thinks that maybe he can go to Peter Parker and talk about like what is actually happening here, and he would take the two girls to this wrestling match, and he ends up seeing the paper where he can fight Crusher Hogan for $100, and he actually would, and Crusher Hogan would fight Flash Thompson in this alternate reality, and he would, no joke, take him out, and then he would put him in a headlock. And what would happen here is he would make fun of Crusher Hogan, and he didn't know like his powers. So what happens in this reality is, instead of Uncle Ben getting shot by a robber, Flash Thompson actually kills Crusher Hogan. He actually breaks Crusher Hogan's neck and becomes a murderer by accident. So it was pretty much like manslaughter. And what happens is they're like, good lord, like he's not moving. And then the other guy, like the ref, actually says like, looks like his neck is broken, he's dead. And Flash can't believe it. He's like, how is that possible? I wasn't even squeezing that hard, I just wanted the money. And the cops are already there. So in the hallway scene, there's no rob or anything. They're pretty much just telling Flash like, you're coming with us peacefully. And Flash would say no, and he actually would knock out both cops, and one of the cops would be on the ground, and he would actually crawl out of the way, and he would actually break out of glass, and he would go through like the whole building, and he actually would learn that he could crawl up the wall. So he would actually crawl up the wall, and he would eventually make his way to a building, and he couldn't believe it that he had these spider powers, and he didn't know if he could become a hero because he didn't want to show his face, because he ended up killing somebody, but he thought that he would get a costume. So it's just very interesting to see how like Flash Thompson would have became Spider-Man. Captain Spider would eventually make this really different alternate version of the costume, with pretty much just his mouth that's pretty much like the only thing that's open with his hair. So it's just a different costume, and he would actually fight people like the Chameleon. And what would happen here is, in this alternate timeline, is like Peter Parker would actually observe this alternate version of Captain Spider, and he would see that like what he was doing and stuff, and Captain Spider would eventually come across a robbery that would actually have the Vulture, and the Vulture would be very powerful in this alternate timeline, because Captain Spider in this universe, he didn't really know what the heck he was doing when he was fighting. So he would fight all these thugs, and what would actually happen here is Vulture would kick him back in the neck, and then he would fight the Vulture in the air, and the Vulture would end up actually beating the crap out of him, because the Vulture knew that Captain Spider, like, he didn't know really what he was doing. So he would try to get him up in the air even further, because he knew that his webs wouldn't actually be able to catch him in the air. So what happens is he pretty much calls him a fool, and that he was an actual idiot, and that he possessed a weapon that like he didn't know anything about. And what he actually does here is he would kick him back and he would fall to the ground, and Peter Parker would actually see this fight in the air, so he couldn't actually believe what was going on. So he would actually unmask Captain Spider, and then he would find out that Captain Spider was actually Flash Thompson himself, and he couldn't believe his identity. Like, this big hero ended up looking up to was actually the high school bully. So he takes the mask off and he is just enraged, and he can't even believe it that he's dead, like he actually died. So the Vulture in this alternate timeline killed Captain Spider, so Flash Thompson actually fell to his death. You know, Uncle Ben would actually live, but like Peter Parker's idol, you know, Captain Spider, would eventually die, and then he would meet that it was actually Flash Thompson. So it's kind of like very interesting, a really different take on the story for sure, if Flash Thompson ended up becoming Spider-Man. But if you guys did enjoy this video, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn your notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. But anyways, as always, peace out.